Hello, friends. Thank you for being here. Each of you makes this channel alive and special. Thanks to your support, I can share stories, thoughts, and emotions that hopefully resonate in your heart. If you have just started exploring my content, welcome. Real-life stories are waiting for you here. Subscribe, like, and share your impressions. Your voice is very important to me. When my son dropped the bombshell that I wasn't welcome at his place for Christmas, I just kind of laughed it off, hopped in my car, and made a call. By the time New Year's came around, I'd made sure their mortgage was wiped out. That was just the beginning of my plan. It was time to teach a lesson in humility and set things right. You're not going to believe what I did next. I settled back on Michael's leather sofa, throwing out the idea that I should make my famous turkey this year. I even mentioned the sage stuffing that was my wife's favorite. She always said it was better than her grandma's. As my words hung in the air, the aroma of fancy vanilla candles that his wife Isabella adored surrounded us. Michael sat next to me, fiddling nervously. His wedding ring caught the flicker from their giant Christmas tree. He seemed tense, like he was gearing up for something big. "Dad, you can't come over for Christmas," he blurted out, and it hit me like a punch. I was taken aback. "Why not?" I asked. Michael looked everywhere but at me, focusing on the expensive coffee table I'd helped him pick out when Isabella wanted a fancier one. "Isabella's family is visiting. They're not comfortable having you here," he mumbled, shrinking a little with each word. My fingers went cold. "They're not comfortable," I repeated. "What's their problem, Michael?" He winced. "Dad, let's not make this awkward, okay?" From the kitchen, I caught sight of Isabella's new appliance, that pricey mixer she insisted on having for her holiday baking spree that lasted maybe 3 weeks tops. Just another $2,000 forgotten since October. "So, where should I spend Christmas?" I asked quietly. Michael's expression softened a bit. "Maybe you could visit Aunt Rosa, or we could celebrate the weekend after." Like Christmas was just another thing to reschedule. I stood up, feeling the strain in my knees from years of bearing this weight. "I know, Dad," he tried, but I was already headed for the door, past the family photos where I seemed to shrink over time, past Isabella's endless collection of coats crowded in the closet. My hand gripped the doorknob, cool and steady. Without looking back, I said, "Wish Isabella's parents a Merry Christmas for me." The December chill hit me hard as I made my way to the truck. I heard Michael calling my name, then the quiet click of the closing door. That was it. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment, ignoring the buzzing phone, likely with Michael on the other end, trying to smooth things over with empty apologies. I didn't answer, just turned the key and drove away from the house I'd funded but never felt welcomed in. As I drove through the familiar streets back home, the heater humming against the cold, South Hills unfolded around me, each street reminding me of who I used to be, the dad who treasured family above all, ready to spend his last dime to see his son smile. That man, I figured out, had been too trusting. At the red light on 29th and Grand, I saw a young father loading Christmas presents into an SUV, his kids eagerly watching, their breaths fogging up the windows in excitement. Once, that was Michael and me before Isabella, back when I was just a dad, not just a wallet with ignored emotions. I let numbers spin in my mind, like a never-ending slot machine ticking up $2,800 every month for 5 years. My calculator had given up the ghost trying to keep up last spring when I added it all up. $140,000. All the savings Maria and I had squirreled away for our retirement, gone in a flash. Just like that. I slammed the gas pedal as the light turned green, my truck roaring with my frustration. 5th Street was where I'd refinanced our home, Maria's and mine, to help out with someone else's down payment. I remembered the loan officer's sympathetic look. "Mr. Flores, are you sure about this? It's risky to invest in someone else's venture." But it was more than just anybody's venture. It was my son's future, my family's security. Then there was Lincoln Street, The bank where I took out a second mortgage when Michael lost his job a few years back. Just a temporary situation, Dad. Just until I'm stable again, Michael had said, Isabella beside him with a designer purse over her shoulder, nodding like she got it, but probably already calculating the price of my desperation. As I pulled up to my house, the driveway was still cracked because, let's be real, any spare cash I had went toward their dream life instead. The porch light was flickering too, another task I hadn't gotten around to. Inside, it felt so empty without Maria's laughter, without the family gatherings that were gone forever. As I fumbled with my keys, my phone buzzed loudly through the quiet house. It was Isabella calling, probably to explain why I didn't meet her parents' expectations. I'd been bracing for this conversation for 5 years. I let it ring a bit before answering. Her voice was syrupy sweet, just like when she needed me to foot their bills. "So I heard about the little issue with Michael," she began. "Issue?" I leaned against the kitchen counter, still in my coat. "There's no issue, Isabella. You've made things clear as day." "Listen," she said. "I know this seems rough, but you have to look at it from my parents' perspective. They're traditional. Holidays mean a certain vibe to them." "A certain vibe?" I echoed, trying to wrap my head around it. I heard shopping bags rustling on her end, probably spending money that should have gone toward their mortgage, which inexplicably was my problem to handle. "Well, they're not into your style of cooking or that loud music. Plus, Dennis, they're educated. They talk about politics, books, art. You get that, right?" Her words stung more than any punch. I'd put up with her remarks for 8 years, all for Michael's sake, acting like I didn't see her patronizing glances. My kind of cooking. I kept my cool. "The meals you loved every Sunday for 3 years when times were tough, like those tamales that reminded you of your grandma? That was different. We valued that back then. But now, with my parents," she paused, "you can't have the Mexican working-class guy ruining your fancy dinner." The sweetness in her voice was gone. "Stop being dramatic, Dennis. It's not about race, it's about class. My dad graduated top of his class at Washington State. Mom speaks 4 languages. They vacation in the Hamptons. What would you add to the dinner chat? Stories about laying tiles?" I felt a wave of heat, but stayed calm. "I built a business from nothing after your husband's grandfather passed. I've employed over 50 people, paid more in taxes than your dad ever made at his best. Money isn't everything, Dennis. There's pedigree, education. Maria knew her place better than you do." Silence followed. She'd stepped over a line I didn't know existed until she stomped all over it in her designer shoes. "What did you say about my wife?" "She just fit in better. She didn't rock the boat. She knew some places weren't for her." My grip on the phone tightened. Maria had more class in her little finger than they ever would. Yeah, right. She was just a house cleaner who got a lucky break. At least she knew to keep quiet about it. "Isabella," I said, my voice dropping to something new. "Pay attention. This conversation ends here. No more pretending we're family. You can't just—" "We're done," I repeated, and hung up. I set the phone on the counter, my hand steady. The kitchen felt different, smaller but somehow lighter, like a huge weight had lifted. I walked over to my desk in the corner and pulled out the manila envelope I'd been avoiding. Row after row of bank statements, mortgage documents, years of automatic payments that bled me dry while they lived it up. Time to end this. Section 4. First choice, cancel the mortgage. The documents were spread across my kitchen table like clues at a crime scene. 5 years of bank statements, all showing the same thing. $2,800 taken from my account on the 15th of every month into theirs. A paper trail of my own foolish choices. I grabbed a calculator and started adding it up. First year, $33,600. Second year, another $33,600. By the 3rd year, I stopped buying new clothes. In the 4th year, I switched to discount grocery stores. This year, the 5th year, I was eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch to make the budget work. $143,400, Not counting the down payment, not counting the times I covered their utility bills piled up when Isabella's shopping addiction took over. Not that this was including the new roof, landscaping outside, or the must-have furniture. I slouched in my chair, squinting at numbers until they all went fuzzy. There went Maria's insurance cash, my retirement fund, and the savings we had for grandkids I might never see. Every bit disappeared into a house where I wasn't invited for any holiday gatherings. I picked up my phone and started searching through contacts until I found the bank's number. The automated voice cheerfully suggested options in English and Spanish. Nice touch, very inclusive for folks like me. Customer service, this is Jennifer. How can I help you today? I need to stop an automatic payment, I told her, my voice sounding steadier than it had in a while. Of course, sir. I'll just need your account number and a few verification details. I rattled off the numbers, hearing her keyboard clacking away. She was professional, efficient, and all business, without a hint of judgment regarding why a 62-year-old was canceling payments, probably for his kid's mortgage. I see the transfer you're asking about, Mr. Flores. $2,800 every month to Wells Fargo. Account ending in 7423. How long has this been going on? 5 years, I admitted, leaving a bad taste in my mouth. And you want to end it right away? I took in my kitchen, full of old appliances I couldn't replace, the walls crying out for paint, and those drafty windows, all from funneling my home repair money into someone else's dream house. Yes, right away, I confirmed. It's done. Cancelled. Anything else I can help with today? No, I replied, surprised by the relief one simple word can bring. No, that's everything. I hung up and sat there in silence in my own space. Outside, night had fallen over Spokane, Christmas lights keeping time in homes where family gathered with no pressure to pretend. For the first time in years, next month's budget would be in the black. Since Maria passed, I'd have the cash to fix up the porch light, better groceries, maybe plan a little getaway. I gathered up bank statements, mortgage papers, all the evidence of my goodwill, then walked to the fireplace. I struck a match and watched 5 years' worth of sacrifice turn into ash. As the fire's warmth hugged me, warmer than I'd felt in ages, my phone buzzed, a text. Probably Michael wanting to apologize or Isabella needing money for something essential like throw pillows. I ignored it, preferring to pour myself a glass of the good whiskey, saved for a special occasion that never came. Tonight was just as good. I toasted the empty room, Maria's picture on the mantel, and to the person I used to be and the person I was going to enjoy being again, uninterrupted. Merry Christmas to me, I mused sincerely, knowing this was the beginning of Isabella's provocations. The next morning was bright and clear, with sunlight spilling into my kitchen as I savored my second cup of coffee. Unbelievably, I wasn't fretting about cash disappearing from my account in a few days, a freedom that outshone even the taste of my splurge on authentic Colombian coffee. At 10:47 a.m., my phone buzzed, flashing Isabella's name like a warning sign. "Dennis," she said impatiently as always, "I need you to pick up my parents at Spokane Airport. They're flying in from Portland at 2:00. I placed my mug down gently, watching the steam curl. "Isabella, remember our chat yesterday?" I asked. "Whatever that was about, we've got to be practical. My folks need a ride, and you're the only one free during the day." Her audacity was beyond belief. Less than a day after declaring I wasn't family dinner material, she expected me to play chauffeur. "And why me exactly?" I pressed. "Because Dennis, it's family. You help out," she barked, her irritation showing. "And let's face it, you're no rival. Not even close," she commanded, as if ordering me. It felt like the last straw. "What airline?" I asked, staying calm. "Alaska Air Flight 447. They'll be at Baggage Carousel 3, she detailed, adding, "And Dennis, remember, they're expecting someone who can manage their bags properly. Don't let us down." I could all but hear her fingers tapping impatiently on the granite countertop, the upgrade she insisted on, deeming laminate unacceptable. "Sure thing," I answered. "I'll take care of it." "Great. Make sure to dress nicely, like that blue shirt from Michael's graduation. People notice those little details. The call ended. No thanks given. I set my phone aside and looked at the time. 10:52 a.m. Plenty of time to spare. I poured myself another cup of coffee, added a bit more sugar, and unfolded yesterday's paper to tackle the unfinished crossword. 7 across. Delayed gratification. 12 letters. I figured I'd come up with the answer eventually. Part 6. Trapped at the airport. By 2:15 p.m. I was comfy in my armchair with some fresh Earl Grey and the Sunday paper. I'd cracked the previous day's crossword. Delayed gratification turned out to be postponement. My phone buzzed. Isabella again, but I let it go. The warm December sun was flooding my living room, a place where I often pondered the cost of my generosity. Today felt designed for peace. At 2:47 p.m., another buzz previewing her text. "Dad, where are you? My parents are—" I flipped the phone face down and continued with the sports section. The Seahawks lost again. Some things never change. By 3:30, my phone rang 6 times. I'd finished the paper, brewed more tea, and started organizing the kitchen junk drawer. Amazing what one can do when not at someone's beck and call. At 3:45, another call, unknown number, probably her parents on a borrowed phone at the airport. I let it ring. Outside, a neighbor was putting up Christmas lights while his kids darted around, full of December energy. Just a typical family, doing regular stuff, nobody waiting for someone who decided not to show up. By 4:15 p.m., the calls were nonstop. Isabella, then the unknown number, then Isabella again. Like an angry wasp trapped, I finally unplugged my landline and shut off my cell phone. Silence, perfect and uninterrupted. I made a grilled cheese sandwich and heated up a can of tomato soup. Comfort food, meant to be savored without interruption. I hadn't treated myself in ages because every cent went towards supporting their lifestyle and keeping things going. But that grilled cheese was perfect, melting into deliciousness. The soup, steamy and hot, in my trusted mug. Outside, the winter sun was setting, casting long, cool shadows in the yard. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, I bet 3 frustrated people stood in an airport parking lot, likely arguing about cab fare and fuming over their missing ride. Oddly, that thought made the soup taste even better. By 5 p.m., dinner was over and the dishwasher was humming. I was contemplating what movie to dive into next, savoring the rare peace without unexpected demands for cash or tasks. I was reaching for the remote when there was a loud pounding at my door, not just a knock, but a furious beating that shook the frame. I put my tea down and moved slowly to see the commotion, pretty sure who it was. As I got closer, the pounding intensified, each hit angrier than before. Through the peephole, I saw them, 3 figures crammed on my tiny porch like predators ready to attack. Opening the door, Cody Jenkins' flushed face was right there. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he shouted, pushing past me. "We waited at that damn airport for 3 hours." Catherine came next, hair askew and lips a thin line of rage. "This is completely unacceptable for someone your age, Dennis. Absolute barbarism." Isabella, tagging behind, looked disheveled with a crumpled coat and smudged makeup. "You embarrassed us. Do you realize what you've done? My parents had to shell out $40 for a cab because you bailed." "Get out of my house," I said, cutting through their complaints. They froze, caught off guard by my tone. Cody's face turned from red to purple. "You've got some nerve, buddy. Not after what you pulled." "This is my home," I replied calmly, staying by the door. "I want you out now." Catherine stepped forward, her voice dripping with the practiced arrogance of someone who's looked down on others for years. "Dennis, you have no idea the magnitude of your error. My husband has connections all over this city. Business, social. You can't do this to us thinking there's no consequence." I stopped her, holding her gaze steady. "Consider this a lesson," I said, "about your inflated pride and how poorly you treat people you think aren't on your level. Isabella looked completely taken aback. You giving us a lesson? Seriously? Who do you think you are? Just some nobody. I'm the guy who's done playing the roles of your ATM and chauffeur, I answered, swinging the door wider open. Lesson's over. You can go now. Cody jabbed a finger at my chest, not quite touching. You've got no idea who you're crossing, old man. I've been around this town longer than you've been alive. There are people I know, big-time folks, who can make things tough for you. Are you threatening me, Mr. Jenkins? No, it's a promise, he spat. Think you can just ditch seniors and walk away scot-free? You'll see how wrong that move was soon. Catherine agreed, her grin as sharp as a knife. Oh, Dennis, consequences are real, and you'll be facing them for all to see. Isabella pulled at her father's arm. Daddy, let's just leave. He's not worth the hassle. They shuffled out, somewhat humbled, though Cody gave one last glare at the door. You'll regret this, he sneered. Count on it. I shut the door behind them, locking it with a sense of relief. Watching them argue and drive off into the chilly December night through the window, my home felt lighter, their departure sweeping away an unseen clutter. Yet their lingering threats filled the air, public humiliation, powerful allies. I turned back into my home. I wandered into the living room, savoring the warmth of my tea. Amid the chaos, a germ of worry tried to surface but was buried by something stronger: anticipation. 3 days later, as I sipped my morning coffee and flipped through the Spokane Review, I was stunned to see my face staring back at me from page 3. The headline screamed, Spokane businessman abandons elderly couple at airport during holiday storm. My hand froze midair with the mug. There it was, my company website photo, at least 5 years old. Below it, an article that chilled my blood and raised my temper all at once. Cody and Catherine Jenkins, visiting their daughter for Christmas, were reportedly abandoned at Spokane International Airport for over 4 hours on Sunday. I, Dennis Flores, didn't supposedly show up for a scheduled pickup. The couple, both nearing their 60s, were left out in the cold as a winter storm warning loomed, though it was actually a sunny 52 degrees. Cody Jenkins, a retired banker, was quoted saying, "We couldn't believe he'd leave us like that." He continued, "Despite calling him again and again, Mr. Flores didn't answer. We ended up having to spend big on a taxi in bad weather. At our age, that's not only rude, it's downright unsafe." The article criticized my mental state and painted a picture of a supposedly erratic history. Cody portrayed himself and Catherine as frail victims against a heartless older man who suddenly lost it. There was no mention of the blow-up at Christmas dinner, Isabella's stipulations, or the years they'd bled me dry. Just me, cast as the cold-hearted villain deserting helpless tourists in a snowstorm conjured by Cody's imagination. I set my coffee down and meticulously reread the article. Then again. The article was under the name Patricia Morrison, lifestyle editor. I didn't know her, but I recognized the tactics. Cody had leveraged his banking circles to push this smear where it would do the most damage. Clever game. I had to admit it. This wasn't a simple tantrum from spoiled folks. They were smart, strategic. They understood that in a town like Spokane, a good reputation is gold. A single ruthless newspaper piece could unravel everything I'd worked for. They had gone all out. I carefully folded the paper, shifting my thoughts into the sharp, analytical mode that helped me launch my business from the ground up. This situation was more than just airport pickups, holiday gatherings, or bills. I was about to prove I could come out victorious. I powered up my laptop and started searching for people. Cody Jenkins, Catherine Jenkins, Isabella Flores, their social networks, the people they knew, bits of their daily lives, and all the secrets they'd unknowingly shared online. They thought they were ready for a strategic battle? Time to show them how a real strategist plays the game. I glanced at the calendar. December 18th. Just 1 week until Christmas. 1 week to craft a plan they'd never see coming. Over the next 3 days, I slipped into another world. Not the one where I was Dennis Flores, the tired old guy his family thought they could ignore, but the one where I was a savvy businessman with a brilliant mind. Someone who'd built a company from the ground up wouldn't allow a few entitled freeloaders to undo 4 decades of hard work. My laptop became my HQ. Tabs overflowed with social media profiles, each one a strategic piece in a high-stakes game. Cody Jenkins, former First National Bank manager, member of the Spokane Country Club, and treasurer of the Inland Northwest Business Leaders Association, a man with a reputation to protect. Catherine's Instagram? A gallery of elegance and luxury, hosted charity events, wine tastings, picture-perfect getaways to Coeur d'Alene, all hashtagged #Das Blessed Life. Every picture looked professionally curated to scream success and sophistication. Friends loved her for her polished style and motivational lifestyle, all done with other people's money, mine in particular. Isabella's posts on Facebook painted an honest picture. She'd share snapshots of our lovely home, flaunting the kitchen I paid for, restaurant check-ins while I was covering their bills. Just a week ago, she'd posted, "Can't wait for Christmas dinner with family. Excited to show off our hosting skills." Our hosting skills, our home, our triumph. The audacity left me shaking my head. Michael's LinkedIn profile dropped the final clue. His recent activity showed a new connection with Patricia Morrison, the lifestyle editor at the Spokane Review. The same Patricia Morrison who had written the scathing article about me. I leaned back, taking in the mountain of evidence on my laptop. They made 3 major blunders. First, totally dismissing me. Second, making their attack go public, allowing me to publicly respond. And third, showing off their lavish lifestyle, which handed me a goldmine of hypocritical behavior. I clicked on Patricia Morrison's profile. She was 43, held a degree in journalism from WSU, spent 15 years in local media, no previous connections to banking or finance. Cody must have contacted her through a mutual business circle. I spent 5 minutes digging through local business directories, and my theory was confirmed. 3 shared contacts linked Cody to Patricia's editor. This wasn't just a random story, it was a deliberate setup. Amateur move. I opened a new document, not designed to retaliate against their media hit, but to craft something better, a timeline. I detailed 5 years of financial aid, with bank statements, receipts, and canceled checks. The down payment for their house? $47,000 from my home equity loan. Isabella's fancy granite counters? $18,000 on my credit card. 60 mortgage payments of $2,800 added up to $168,000 and counting, totaling $250,000, more than I'd spent on myself in a decade. A text dinged on my phone from a number I didn't recognize. It was likely Isabella trying another approach. I ignored it and focused on my task. By evening, everything was compiled in a hefty folder. Bank statements, receipts, their social media boasts flaunting things I paid for, a printout of the newspaper story marked with handwritten notes, exposing every lie and manipulation. December 24th was highlighted on my calendar, not for Christmas, but as the perfect day for a confrontation. According to Isabella's Facebook event, they were hosting a Christmas dinner for 12, family, friends, neighbors, people who read the Spokane Review and made judgments based on it, people who deserved the truth. I closed my laptop with a snap and headed over to the kitchen, where my trusty camera rested. I'd bought it years ago to capture job sites for work. Now, it was going to serve a brand new purpose. Tomorrow was Christmas Eve. Tomorrow, Cody Jenkins and his clan would see what happens when you mess with someone who knows how to hit back. Christmas Eve dawned cold and overcast, typical Spokane winter, a reminder of the warmth of home and family gatherings. Shame I wasn't part of those anymore. But I had my own agenda. Like a lawyer gearing up for a case, I laid out my proof. Bank statements organized by year, complete with highlighted monthly payments. Sequence of receipts, each one proving I'd been bankrolling their fancy lifestyle. Social media snaps turned into printouts, showcasing Isabella's bling, vacation shots, and the lavish Christmas decorations currently adorning their place. A dozen copies of everything, one for each dinner guest. Topping each pile, I left a newspaper article, red annotations glaring in the margins. Words like lies next to Cody's dramatic claims about wild weather conditions. False beside the ridiculous comments about my so-called erratic behavior. Highlighted omissions showing the 5 years of financial help I gave. Wearing my sharpest navy suit, the same suit from Maria's funeral. I was all set for a different sort of farewell. This was goodbye to being the pushover in their lives. Tonight, I'd stand my ground, showing some spine. At 6:30 that evening, I filled my briefcase with packets of evidence and headed over to Kendall Yards. The house gleamed with lights, cars packed in the driveway and lining the street. Through the windows, I could see people gathered in the dining room, Isabella playing hostess in a home my money made possible. I parked across the street and checked the time. 6:45. Perfect. Late enough for them to be seated for dinner, but still early in the feast. No escaping quickly now. The front door was unlocked, no surprise there. Isabella loved bragging about their safe neighborhood, unlike those tougher areas people often worried about. I slipped in quietly, warmth and lively chatter surrounding me as I walked in. Just then, I overheard Catherine say, "But darling, that's not how things are done in this family," followed by laughter. This family, even after everything they'd done to exclude me. I entered the dining room, briefcase in hand, and all 12 faces turned to me, emotions ranging from shock to dismay. Isabella paused, wine glass frozen mid-sip. Michael's face went ghostly pale. Cody and Catherine looked like they'd seen a ghost. "Good evening, everyone," I greeted calmly, placing my briefcase on their fancy sideboard. "I hope you won't mind me crashing your Christmas party." Isabella found her voice first. "Dennis, this is not okay. You should go." "Actually," I countered, opening my briefcase and pulling out the first batch of papers, "I think your guests deserve to know who's been footing the bill for this dinner, this house, and the luxurious lifestyle you're putting on display." A woman I didn't know, likely a friend from one of Catherine's charities, leaned in, looking intrigued. "What's he talking about?" she asked Isabella. "Oh, he's just having one of his episodes," Isabella quickly replied. "Michael, call someone." But I was way ahead of her, making my way around the table, handing out packets to each person. "Here are the bank records," I said plainly. 5 years' worth of financial support, $168,000 in mortgage payments alone, plus the down payment, renovations, furniture, appliances, everything you see. For a moment, the room was silent except for the rustling of papers as the guests started piecing together the truth about my contributions and their deceit. "This is," one man began but trailed off, fixated on a bank statement. "Outrageous," the woman opposite him finished. "Isabella, why didn't you tell us?" Isabella's calm was fading fast. "It's more complicated than it looks," she stammered. "Dennis offered to help us. We never begged him." "Really?" I jumped in, pulling out a newspaper article. "Let's talk about what you actually asked for and what you told the media about me." As soon as I walked in, the room got cold. I laid out copies of the article on the table, eyeing the guests as they pieced together who I was, thanks to the nasty story that had run 3 days prior. "All right," I said, my voice cutting through the quiet. "Let's chat about who's been playing who in this family." Cody's face went from red to ghostly white. Catherine sat stiffly, her wine glass untouched. Mr. Jenkins, a man decked out in a pricey sweater, looked between the article and Cody. "What's going on, Cody?" Before Cody could open his mouth, I jumped in. "It was 52 degrees and clear skies, and those weren't just some random tourists. They were Isabella's parents, arriving for the Christmas dinner I got booted from because I didn't fit their standards." Catherine finally broke the silence. "That's not... We didn't say..." "Say what, Catherine?" I interrupted, pulling out my phone and showing her Isabella's social media rants. That I didn't match up to your folks' standards. That my love for Mexican food and my working-class roots didn't measure up. Talk like that could make anyone's educated friends squirm. A woman, who I figured was one of Catherine's charity pals, shifted in her seat awkwardly. "Come on, Catherine," Cody chimed in, but you could hear the doubt in his voice. "This man's just having a mental health meltdown, gets anxious about getting older, worried about money." Money? That almost made me laugh. "Mr. Jenkins, I've been shelling out close to $3,000 a month to keep your daughter and son-in-law afloat for the past 5 years. The real cash troubles are heading your way." I looked around the table at everyone. These folks have taken $200,000 from me, backstabbed me, twisted my son's perspective, and banned me from family get-togethers. And when I stood my ground, they tried to drag my name through the mud in the local paper. Michael, who'd been quiet until now, finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Dad, I had no clue about the article." I replied softly, "Your wife knew, and her parents orchestrated the whole thing. They made me out to be the villain for not letting them treat me like some bank machine and chauffeur." The vibe in the room was shifting hard, like tectonic plates moving underfoot. Faces around the table began connecting the dots, realizing the truth about our hosts was all a sham. An older woman wearing a string of pearls and staring at the financials whispered, "This is awful. Cody, why did you let your daughter take advantage of this man and then smear his name?" Cody's cool facade was falling apart. "You're not seeing the full picture," he started, but she was quick to retort, "I've seen enough. This man's been supporting your family while you've treated him like your errand boy, and when he drew a line, you went for his throat." Catherine's voice cracked. "He abandoned us at the airport." I kept my cool. "That's after you told me to stay away for Christmas to keep your parents comfy. 5 damn years of footing your bills, and you looked down on me for my upbringing." Silence took over the room. Those two sat in the spotlight, the looks in the room a mix of shock and regret from those realizing who they'd been siding with. Trying to regain control, Isabella butted in. "Everybody, calm down. This is nothing but a family squabble that got out of hand." I laid down the law. "The game changed when you went public. You tainted my name through the papers, deciding it was worth it for your pride." I met the eyes of the others seated at the table, people now seeing the real me. "I wanted to make sure the truth was known before you hear my name, Dennis Flores, in the papers again, because next time, it'll be the real deal." I snapped my briefcase shut, adjusted my tie, and threw out my final words. "Enjoy the meal. It's the last one on me." As I headed for the door, a cacophony erupted behind me, voices blaming each other amidst the sound of a perfectly curated image falling apart. Best Christmas tune I ever heard. Jump ahead to March on a Tuesday morning, and a letter came through, certified mail making it feel heavy with legal vibes. After signing for it at the door, the smell of spring hinted at new beginnings, a sharp contrast to December's bleakness. "Notice of default," it exclaimed, signaling a last chance to fix things. It outlined how 3 unpaid mortgage payments had finally caught up with Michael and Isabella, like a wave crashing against the shore. They owed $8,400, with just 2 weeks to resolve it or face losing the home I'd helped them secure. I set the letter aside and took a sip of my coffee, absorbing the situation like far-off weather news. Important, but no longer mine to worry about. Calls had been pouring in, a sense of desperation growing in each one. I blocked Isabella's number after her first frantic voicemail. Cody and Catherine's standing in Spokane had evaporated after their Christmas debacle. Even Michael called, but I ignored those, grappling with a mix of, I found myself both angry and curious about how long it would take for pride to crumble. Turns out, it took 97 days. That Thursday evening, he showed up at my door, a ghost of the person who had shut me out at Christmas. He seemed like he'd aged a decade in those 3 months. Dark circles under his eyes, wearing a suit that used to be crisp and carrying desperation like cheap cologne. "Dad," he began when I opened the door, "we need to talk." I stepped back to let him in, noticing how he looked around my place like it was new. Everything was revamped, the furniture bought with the first paycheck after paying off my mortgage, fresh paint on walls neglected for years while my money was feeding his dreams. I finally got things sorted once I stopped funding someone else's fantasy. "Nice place," he mumbled. "This is what happens when you invest in yourself instead of people who don't," I replied, settling into my new recliner. "Want some coffee?" He shook his head, perching on the edge of my couch, unsure if he should get comfortable. "Dad, I'm really sorry about everything," he said. "The Christmas dinner fiasco, that newspaper article, how Isabella and everyone else treated you." "Go on," I encouraged. "I swear I didn't know Cody set up the story. When I found out about it..." He ran his hands through his hair nervously. "Oh man, Dad. What they said behind your back, about our family, about Mom, it was all wrong." My jaw tightened when he mentioned Maria, but I stayed calm. "What exactly did they say about your mother?" He avoided eye contact. "That she knew her place better than you knew yours. That she respected boundaries," he admitted. "I should have spoken up for you a long time ago," he confessed. "Yes, you should have," I replied simply. We sat quietly, weighed down by 5 years of mistakes. Outside, the usual hum of a Thursday evening filled the air, a neighbor mowing the lawn in a place where sons didn't shut their fathers out of celebrations. "The house is in foreclosure," Michael finally disclosed. "I know," I said. "We can't keep up with the payments without..." He paused, understanding dawned. "Without my help," I finished for him. "Without the money I sent every month while you let your wife's family demean me." He looked ashamed. "You know how it looks, Michael," I continued, leaning in so he'd meet my eyes. "Do you have any idea how much I sent over those years?" He nodded, looking down. "Isabella figured it out after Christmas. The mortgage, the down payment, all of it. Over $200,000. $237,468, I corrected him. "I know exactly because I finally did the math. Something I should have done a long time ago." His face fell with regret. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to fix this." "You can't," I said, my tone calm. "That money is long gone. What's worse, those years are lost. 5 years that could have been about building something with you instead of buying into your wife's illusions." "I know," he said quietly. There was a flicker of hope as he looked up. "Maybe we could start over. Is there a way to..." "Are you hoping I'll pick up the mortgage again?" I asked directly. The hope left his face. "We're losing everything, Dad. The house, Isabella's respect, her parents' approval. I don't know what to do next." "You'll figure it out," I said, not harshly. I realized how to live without having a son who respected me. I learned to spend Christmas alone while you celebrated with those who looked down on me. That's when the tears began, soft and resigned. "I've lost you, haven't I? I picked them over you, and now you're gone." I looked at him, this man I had raised, loved, and sacrificed for, who had others tell him I wasn't good enough. "Michael," I finally spoke, "you didn't lose me. You let me go. There's a difference." He wiped his hand over his eyes. "Could you ever forgive me?" "I forgave you months ago," I said honestly. "But forgiveness isn't about going back. It doesn't mean acting like this never happened or returning to my old ways." I had become used to feeling grateful for whatever scraps of attention you gave me. But what did that really mean? I walked over to the mantel and glanced at Maria's photo, next to a new picture of me at Rosa's family's Easter dinner. That was my first holiday with people who truly wanted me there. It meant that if you wanted any relationship with me, you had to make an effort yourself. It's about respecting me, not making me earn it, and making choices based on what's right, not just easy. I turned to face him again. It also meant that next time anyone, your wife, her family, or anyone else, tries to exclude me from family gatherings, remember who acts like true family. He nodded slowly, realizing that respect isn't a given. The house, he asked softly. It's not my problem anymore? I sat back, feeling lighter than I had in years. You're an adult, Michael. Handle it like one. Get a job that pays your bills, sell the house and find something affordable. Stop living beyond your means and expecting others to bail you out. He stood up slowly, his posture straighter than when he arrived. You're right about everything, he confessed. I knew it. As he walked to the door, he turned back. Dad, for what it's worth, I was proud of you when you stood up for yourself at Christmas dinner. I was embarrassed and angry but proud. Good, I said. Maybe there's hope for you yet. After he left, I poured a glass of good whiskey and walked onto my back porch. Spring was coming to Spokane, with trees beginning to bud and the air warming, full of promise. In 4 months, I'd be 63. Maria had been gone 8 years, and 5 of those I'd spent as a doormat for people who didn't appreciate me. I wasn't going to waste any more time like that. My phone buzzed with a text from Rosa. Dinner on Sunday. The kids want to show you their school projects. I smiled and replied that I'd be there. It turns out, a real family is about being with people who genuinely want you there. Anything else is just an expensive charade, and I was done buying tickets to plays where I wasn't welcome. The whiskey tasted like freedom, and the future looked as bright as I was ready to make it.